This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Friday, June the 7th, 2024. So glad you could join us. Glad to be back in the studios after 2 days at World Pork Expo. Looking forward to sharing some of our content with you here today, as I'll be talking with Dr. Anna Forseth. She's the Director of Animal Health for the National Pork Producers Council, about the latest with ASF. Also, the latest on what's going on with Farm Bill requests for animal health preparedness and also traceability. But first, let's go ahead and run down those markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. And Curt, we saw the markets get off to a slow start today. What did we see at the end of the day here this trading week?
Well, we're kind of back and filled for the most part. Corn down 2 or 3 cents on the day. These beans, old beans down 20, new beans down 10. Wheat backed up. Had a lot of optimism going home yesterday. We saw the forecast suggest warmer, drier conditions. A lot of talk of, some demand from China. Did see confirmation China did buy 104,000 tons of old beans, but the key is new beans. We need to have them step in on the new beans. So hopefully that will continue. But ideas are Brazilians might not be selling a whole lot here because of the possibility of increasing their income tax by 20%. I'm not for sure all the logistics about it, but I would think that if my taxes were going to go up, I'd sell, get the money right away. But they've got a lot of time here to put their hands in their pocket, look for clarification on this, and it still has to be voted on and passed on. But as you know, governments need money, and so there's going to be some type of tax on that, and they're going to pass that all the way down to the farmer like you usually do to generate some income. Hopefully, the U.S. does not get the idea to do that here. But anyway, the export sales yesterday were good. There's particularly on corn, fairly good. But when it's all said and done, we're coming down to the weather forecast. And we're in the atmosphere where we're going to be quite a bit higher, quite a bit lower, according to what the forecast shows. This instability in the Gulf. The Gulf of Mexico waters are about the warmest they've been in years. So that's going to create a lot of volatility with the weather. The question is, will the ridge in the west move east or vice versa? So we'll continue to go every 6 hours with a different weather forecast that we're looking at. Here locally, we got a chance of some showers here Saturday and again on Wednesday, but mid 80s, but we start getting into the 90s. The trade's going to start getting a little bit excited. But not only are they watching the U.S. weather, the Russian-Ukraine weather continues to be an item to keep an eye on. They continue to struggle there with moisture and so forth. So production, what type of yield you put on the crop here and around the world is going to be watched fairly closely. Particularly, getting into next week, we'll have the monthly supply demand report on Wednesday. Don't expect a whole lot of changes in the U.S. numbers. The crop's not far enough along, and we're not in the new crop marketing year yet to adjust it. But old crop corn carryout expect to go down slightly. Old crop bean carryout maybe go up slightly just due to the slow export news. The other part that's been leading the market up and down is the wheat. Wheat, we saw Turkey kind of ban imports of wheat to their country. They're the number 2 buyer of Russian wheat, so there's ideas that we could probably have quite a bit of wheat on the world market here than what we thought here earlier in the week. Then plus 2, we're going to start to see harvest activity pick up. I know we got some guys in southern Illinois, Kentucky, and they're about a week or 2 out. And barring no big windstorm or hailstorm, they're looking at some fairly decent yields in areas that's not too wet. There's some areas too wet, and they're looking at some fungus and a little bit of disease pressure for the most part. wild rodeo here yesterday, today. Big up, big down, but on the wheat corn, July corn up about 2 1/4. Had a weekly price reversal up, so this week's low is going to be key where you need to draw the line or hold the line. December corn was up 1/4 cent on the week. You know, it had an upside up there on Thursday, then kind of reversed back down. So this week's low, this week's highs, areas to watch. Beans were down 25 cents in the July, down 26 cents in the November. Wheat was down 51 cents for the week. So there's going to be a lot of lines on the charts here to watch here as we move forward, as the technicals will probably kick in for a while, but the fundamentals, the weather forecast will be the main feature here as we move forward, Dustin.
All right, moving to the livestock side of things. I know we just had World Pork Expo wrap up here this week. And of course, a lot of talk was on the hogs having a little bit of a downturn here. Cattle being volatile as well. I mean, what did we see here to round out this week?
Oh, them hogs, they've just been on a slide here. It's been tough going, man. It's a little bit of brutal, but for the most part, the product's hanging in there. Those loins are 97, hams 88, belly, $1.32. So the product's firm. On the sales yesterday, on the weekly sales, we saw 20, almost 30 go out. So demand's good, but futures wise, it's been kind of brutal. But if you're watching that lean index, we've been virtually sideways here for just about 2 months. The big thing is livestock wise, there's a little bit more talk about southern Brazil and the flooding areas there, losing some livestock and some poultry and dairy and so forth. The thing on the livestock with this corn market going up and down, traditionally corn goes up, feeders down, and vice versa. So which way the corn goes, the feeders go the opposite way. But fats, the June fats came in there and did finish over 62 cents higher on the week. So for the most part, the fat markets continue to hang in there. And the question is on the pork side, but the way this weather is, I think cookout featuring is going to kick in here, Dustin.
All right. Well, if folks want to talk about market strategies and what they should be thinking about, what's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
1-800-779-1515, agmarket.net. Click on Intel. That's where we got a lot of the information that the team puts out there.
All right, Curt. Well, we thank you so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again next week. Have a great weekend.
You bet. Take care.
That again was Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and look at the closing numbers. That's on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
At the close, July corn was down 3 1/4 at 448 3/4. Soybeans down 20 3/4 at 1179 1/4. Soy meal off $2.10 at 360.70. Soy oil down 72 cents at 43.63. Chicago wheat down 12 cents at 627 1/2. Kansas wheat down 12 1/4 at 665 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 12 1/4 at 694 1/2. Oats down 11 cents at 348 even. On the Merck live cattle, 35 cents higher at 182.17. Feeders $2.07 higher at 254.92. Lean hogs up 52 cents at 93.50. Pork cutouts unchanged at 105.35, and Class 3 milk unchanged at 19.50.
And that was a check of our market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, we'll hear from Dr. Anna Forseth of National Pork Producers Council. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, with all the outbreaks of HPAI and H5N1 in dairy herds, a lot of attention has been there and not so much on African swine fever. But that doesn't mean the threat isn't still there. We talked with Dr. Anna Forseth, Director of Animal Health with National Pork Producers Council, about ASF, also about what they're asking for in the Farm Bill with the help of other livestock organizations, and also what we need to do about traceability to help keep these diseases out of our barns.
We're at World Pork Expo 2024, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, talking right now with Dr. Anna Forseth of the National Pork Producers Council. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk with us today.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
So obviously, we're talking a lot about animal health and a lot of priorities. Let's just go ahead and get the big elephant out of the room, African swine fever. Where are we at on that? How are things looking in that standpoint there?
Yeah, that's a great question to start off with. I've been getting a comment recently that it seems like it's slowed down. We're not hearing as much about African swine fever. And I would agree that we're not hearing as much about African swine fever, but I think the message that I would like producers to hear is that the threat remains. It's not like countries are eradicating this virus. ASF is in more parts of the world than not, and so the threat, the risk is the same as it was when we were really talking about ASF, and so we need to continue to focus on preparedness and response and on-farm biosecurity.
Okay, and how are things going on the research aspect as far as, do we know of how they're coming on a possible vaccine or anything like that? I know that's been something that's been talked about for a few years.
Yeah, the vaccine research continues. There are, several different vaccines. This is an interest of industries far beyond the United States, and so that allows for a lot of collaboration across border and in countries that are dealing with the virus itself. So it's not easy to make a vaccine for this particular virus. It's not easy to get a vaccine approved for this particular virus, and so the expectation was not that it happened quickly, and so the update for now is that we are still working on the vaccine.
Okay, and of course we're also talking a lot about the Farm Bill, and of course animal health is always a big part of that. And I know a lot of times pork will work with the other commodities like beef and sheep and poultry to get something that can work for the collective good. What are the priorities you're looking at right now on animal health in the Farm Bill?
Yeah, great question. So animal health priorities, and as you mentioned, amongst the barnyard, focus on a few different areas. First, funding for the National Animal Health Laboratory Network. So here in Iowa, you've got a fantastic veterinary diagnostic lab, a lot of updates to that laboratory recently, and so that's certainly a member lab of the NALM. So continued funding for those laboratories. The National Veterinary Vaccine and Countermeasures Bank historically is really focused on foot and mouth disease vaccine and will continue. Should we get an approved African swine fever vaccine, that would be an important asset for storing that vaccine in the event that we need it. And then the other two priorities would be the NADPREP program through USDA, the National Animal Disease Preparedness and Response Program, which is a funding opportunity for academic institutions, state governments, industry associations who have identified a need with regard to training or purchasing depopulation equipment in some cases, improving diagnostic test capabilities. So there's kind of a wide range of opportunities there, but that's a grant program to help many different organizations, associations, departments improve their preparedness. And then the National Veterinary Stockpile. So those, despite there being four, we call it a three-legged stool. Mm-hmm. And again, that's a consistent list of priorities amongst the barnyard.
And of course, in the Ag Committee, we know that a lot of the representation understands the need for things like this, but how important is it to educate other lawmakers about why this is important, why this is an essential piece of funding that you don't want to see trimmed in the wayside or undercut because it's so important?
Oh, it's critical. We, as I mentioned, using the NALM labs as an example, we depend on these programs and will not be able to respond to a disease should we not have these assets, these resources. And so the message has been, honestly pretty easy with these lawmakers. We need this, or else we're going to have a very difficult, if not impossible, response to some of these threats. And when you think about something like foot and mouth disease that affects multiple species, it's a big opportunity to get a lot of people behind that. Somewhat working in our favor, the timeline over the last 5-6 years with African swine fever, we spent a lot of time on the Hill. Producers spent a lot of time on the Hill talking with their congressmen and women about African swine fever. And so for us to come back over the last couple of years as we're talking about Farm Bill priorities, they've heard ASF, they've heard why the industry is concerned about foreign swine diseases, and so in some respects, it's been less of a challenge to try to convince them that this is a need. They understand that need.
And, kind of wrapping up, one of the things that's going to kind of tie all this together is, and we're seeing it right now, unfortunately, with the H5N1, with the dairy cattle, is traceability, making sure we know where these animals came from, where they've moved to. I mean, this is really illustrating that point that you guys have been trying to drive home for a while, no matter what the disease is. I mean, how important is this to help get that message across right now and also see what's working and what's not?
Yeah, no, I think you and I have talked before. Traceability is so important for the swine industry, and thankfully, our producers recognize that as well, and have for several years. And so on the traceability front, we were thankful to have passed a resolution at Pork Forum this past March in Chicago. And that forum asked producers to support submitting our standards, our mandatory traceability standards, to USDA for consideration. So we have a meeting scheduled the end of this month to sit down with USDA and give them a little bit more information as far as how industry came to the decisions that we did with regard to those standards. But we're so thankful and happy and frankly proud of this industry for stepping up and making the proactive move to address the gaps that we have in our current live swine traceability system.
And are you seeing a lot of cooperation from producers getting involved with it, or would you like to be seeing more cooperation? I mean, how's that front going there?
I think, we'd always encourage as much participation as possible, right? Because at the end of the day, these are going to be, factors that are implemented on farm. But we saw a really great level of involvement from a variety of producers, from those in the packing industry to the exhibition industry, independent farms, coal markets. I mean, we had a great representation of the industry throughout this process. And over a year and a half. And so we really tried to, solicit as much feedback as possible and make sure as many producers were aware of what we were working on. But I think that there's always opportunity to make that message more broad and to continue to update producers on the progress.
All right. Well, Dr. Forseth, is there anything else that we didn't cover that our Iowa producers really need to know right now on the animal health front?
I think that's a great question. We touched on a lot. As I mentioned on a panel this morning, most of my time is spent on foreign disease or emerging disease, and that's what we focused on. So this is a good reflection of the work that I'm doing. And
all right.
There's the message is that, NPPC is definitely keeping track of everything from foreign diseases to emerging diseases like H5N1 are doing everything we can on the policy side to look out for producers.
All right, that's Dr. Anna Forseth here. She's Director of Animal Health with the NPPC here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
And that again was Dr. Anna Forseth with National Pork Producers Council. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, you can subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure you are notified each time we put out a new video project. Don't forget about our 3 market podcasts coming to you with analysis free to your mobile device, mornings, middays, and closings from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. You can find those on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.